How to perform the ultra-low. All right, this is all the laboratory equipment that you're gonna need to perform the ultra-low chlorine test. So, you're gonna need some buffers and some indicators. You're gonna need this little graduated cylinder, you need a beaker, something to grab your sample in, has to be a glass bottle. You're gonna need a 1,000 milliliter flask, glass flask. The ultra-low machine. This is by Hawk. It's a DR 1900, and you're going to need a another sample cup to run your DO and put your thermometer in. And that's pretty much all the. Oh, you're gonna need a pipette, and you'll need 3 of these pipette tips. So one for the buffer, one for the indicator, and one for the blank, which is on the second test. So basically we're gonna perform 3 tests here. There's always 3 tests involved in all this. And I'm gonna show you how to perform the test without using the filter. The filter is used for the first test. Okay, so for the first test, you're gonna have 2 sampling containers. It's gonna be a glass container. You're going to need at least 50 milliliters to perform your sample for the first test. This is more than 50 milliliters. It might be, I don't know, 200 or 300. So I always fill this glass bottle up when I take a sample from the wash. You're going to need a 50 milliliter graduated cylinder, and it has to be a class A bottle. So it's got an A on that bottle right there. 50 milliliters. That's going to be used for all 3 tests. You're going to use a beaker. We have a 250 milliliter beaker right here. You really actually only need 100 milliliters, but this is more than sufficient to do it. And for the last test, you're going to need a class A. So class A right here, 1,000 milliliter flasks. And for your sample, so when you're putting the thermometer and the dissolved oxygen probe into the cup, this one's 1,000 milliliters. That's you don't necessarily need 1,000 per se. You can 500 milliliters is fine, but you need something kind of big enough to put the probe in and the thermometer in. And okay, so with that said, we will go down to the wash to collect our sample and perform the test. All right, so we're right down here to our outfall, and so we're gonna grab a sample. So what you want to do is take your sampling cup, and you don't want to grab it from the actual puddle that's like right here. You want to grab it coming right out of the pipe. So what you do is you grab it, fill up the cup, rinse it out, fill it up again, rinse it out, fill it up again, rinse it out, and then finally you collect your sample. And like I said, you don't have to fill it up to the top, but you can fill it up most of the way. You'll want to put your thermometer in here, and you want to power up your DO meter, like so. There's a little green button. Push it. Take the little sleeve off. Then you stick the probe inside the cup. And so you want to also take documentation of the time that you collected the sample. Right now it's 2:15 p.m. So what we write down for the temperature and for the dissolved oxygen, we write 14:15. So the sample time was 14:15. Dissolved oxygen was 14:15, and we're starting right now, 14:15, 14:15, and we're also going to record the pH on this sample as well. So we'll write 14:15 as well. So when we get back to the lab, we'll record that later. But you have 15 minutes from the time you grab the sample to the time you actually perform the test. You have 15 minutes, as well as for the final effluent as well. You have 15 minutes from the time that you grab your sample until the time that you start the test. Okay, so after you put them in there, usually you just give it about a minute. That's sufficient amount of time to get an actual reading on the equipment. So right here, it looks like it's pretty much just about stabilizing. You're gonna grab two numbers from here. You're gonna grab the actual DO. It says 6.41 milligrams per liter, and the temperature is 23.9. So we're going to write that down. Right here for dissolved oxygen, 6.41 milligrams per liter and 23.9 degrees Celsius. And then you want to get a reading of your thermometer here. And let's see here, that says it's, this one's reading a little bit higher. It's about 25.8 degrees Celsius. So this is reading about almost 2 degrees Celsius higher than what the dissolved oxygen is saying. So, then next thing you do is you have to basically get another reading. So what you want to do is you want to take the probe out and the thermometer out, just like this, and you put it right back in and give it, another 20-30 seconds, give or take, and then do the same exact thing. Write the temperature and the dissolved oxygen content down, and write the thermometer down. So right now it looks like not really much of a change right now. It looks like it's kind of about the same, 23.9 and 640. So we'll go ahead and write that down. 23.9, 640. Like so. And the thermometer says about the same, 25.8 degrees Celsius. And generally you're gonna have about the same result the second time you collect the data. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to turn the power off to the DO machine. Put the sleeve back on. We'll put this back in our rice bucket. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to collect our sample for the ultra low chlorine test. And this is how you do it. So like I said, just like when you're collecting that first sample, you don't want to take this glass container and dip it into the water. You want to get it right up here where it's coming out of the pipe. Fill that up all the way, rinse it out. Fill it up and rinse it out 3 times. It's 2, 3, and then when you do this, you want to have this baby full. You want to have this water full so as to not allow that much oxygen in it. Then you cap it. Now we got to get back to the lab because we have 15 minutes to start the test. Otherwise, the test is invalid. All right, so now we're back up to the lab, we had to come back to the laboratory because our pH meter is right here. We're going to use a Hawk HQ440D. It was already calibrated this morning. Before you can perform the ultra low chlorine test, you have to make sure your pH meters are sufficiently calibrated. Otherwise, the test will not be valid. So what we're going to do, I'm going to grab a smaller cup because this probe won't fit under there. So we're done with this thermometer. So let me put this right here for now. So you just pour your sample in that you collected for the test for the DO and the thermometer test. Take your probe out, rinse it off. Whoops. And then put your sample underneath the probe. What was that? And put the little spin bar, turn the spin bar thing on. And then you want to go and just hit read right here. And this test, so basically what you want is you want your pH values to be 6.50 or higher. And it can't be any higher than 9.0. Generally, you're never going to see it anywhere close to 9. The concern is always about it being really low, and so a lot of that's all dependent upon the source, the origination of the source of the water coming through. So like right now, it's at 6.58, 6.59, and it's climbing. The little bar is going up and down, so it's taking a little while to stabilize. This is a good sign. This is looking really good. 667. And so we started this at 1426. That's going to go right here under final effluent pH, 1426. So it's been 11 minutes. It's within the 15-minute mark, so we're still valid. So we write down 667 and we write down the temperature. So we write down 6.67 right here, and then we write down 23.3. Now, same thing. We want to get another. You want to run this test again, so you can leave it in here as it is, and all you do is you just hit read. And generally, it's going to be a little bit higher than the second time around, just because I think it takes a little while for this machine to figure out what it really is. 673, and it's 23.2. Okay, and we're done with this machine, so we're just going to go ahead and close this off, dump the water out, and then we'll go over to the ultra low machine and we'll perform the ultra low. Now we're going to perform the ultra low chlorine test. I forgot to mention, after that sample that you grabbed from the wash, you want to make sure you write the time down. That time was at 1420. And then also the final effluent sample that we grabbed from this cup. This is we don't need this anymore, so you can discard it. And that little cup that I used to pour the liquid into it from here, make sure that that's also clean as well. So, okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn this piece of equipment on. So you just push the power button and it's going to boot up. It shows a map of the world, and it usually takes, I think it takes about a minute to boot up, give or take.
Just has to go through some series of tests, make sure that I can operate efficiently.
Okay, and here we are to the main screen. Now, what you want to do is you want to put your little little square box tubing thing they got here. So there's two pieces that's labeled on here. You got an out and an in with an arrow pointing. So the way this is going to work is you open up this lid right here, and if you look in here in this little box right here, you're going to see two little arrows, an arrow right here and an arrow right here. So you want to take the arrow that's on here and you want to match that up. And so basically what's going to happen is we're going to pour the liquid through this little glass beaker thing right here. The water's going to get poured in through here. It's going to go right here into the part that's labeled N. So it's going to flush through the little tube thing here, and it's going to come out here. It's going to come back through here, and it's basically just going to run through this little drain hose that drains right into the sink here. And so basically what we do is before you begin this test, you always want to make sure you flush this out. And so you take some of that distilled water and you just flush it out like so. All you got to do is just fill it up just one time all the way to the top like that, and you'll see the water flow through the hoses like so. And if you want it to drain faster, then make sure your hoses are cut a little bit shorter. So we'll just have to deal with this draining slowly for now, I suppose. So anyhow, while that's draining, we're going to take our sample that we collected down there from the wash, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it in that 50 milliliter graduated cylinder, Class A bottle. And what we do is we're going to take our little, and then what you want to do is you want to make sure this is set the 1.0 right here. That's 1.0 milliliter. Make sure this is nice and tight against here. And then you want to take one of the buffers here. And what I do is I just take my finger and I grab it like so. And then I take 2 fingers here. And I just use leverage to break it apart like so. Take this piece of glass and I throw it in its own little glass box. And then what you want to do is you want to decompress this all the way. You put this into the ball at the very bottom and then just slowly release this. And then this will fill it up as you see. And then you gently depress it into the volumetric flask. Dump the rest of that liquid out, throw it in there. And then you're gonna grab a pipette tip, a different one, for the indicator. And this right here is labeled, right here, it says catalog 24932220. And do the same thing, just wrap your finger around it like so. Use 2 fingers. And then use leverage to break the glass. Push and hold this all the way down. Put it all the way in the glass. Release this slowly. It'll fill up. Dump the rest of that out. Put it in your glass box. Put it in here. Depress it all the way, just one time. Then you give it a little swirl. And then you're gonna take your sample from the wash and you're gonna fill this up to 50 milliliters. So on this flask here, it's gonna be this little line right here. So what you do is you wanna get it as close as you can. Now when you're filling this up, the thing to look for is to make sure it's not pink. If this turns pink, then that means you got chlorine in your outfall. And there we go, that's right about there. It should be right at the bottom of that meniscus is where the line should be. And like I said, if you got pink, that means you don't have enough sodium bisulfate or whatever it is you're using to get the chlorine out of the water out, and you're gonna have to go make some adjustments. So we don't have a cap for this, but I got a little bit of a piece of plastic here that I'm gonna use. So what you do is you just gently invert it twice like that. That's 1, that's 2. And then what you do is after you invert it twice, you're gonna go to your timer here. From here, you're gonna click the little options button right here. You push that, it's gonna say start timer. And then you wanna hit this button right here where it says select. Push that, it'll say timer 3 minutes. Hit the button again, select. And then you're gonna see a little timer right here where it's counting down 3 minutes. So as that timer is counting down, you wanna take your sample that you grabbed from your source, and you're going to pour it through here. You have to pour 50 milliliters of it. This actually isn't 50 milliliters, so I always pour a little bit more in, like so. And that's about 50 milliliters. And you want to wait until this is completely flushed all the way through before you hit 0. Okay, so you can see these little bubbles forming in the hose right here. They're still traveling down. And I just basically do it until they stop. They have stopped. So you're gonna come over here to the piece of equipment. There's a 0 right here. So you hit this up arrow right here, it looks like. And it says it's zeroing. Okay, then it's set at 0. So basically, that sample that you just poured through, you're telling the machine, hey, that clarity of the liquid is 0. So now we got a minute and a half, and when our timer runs out, we are going to flush this through, and then we're gonna hit read. All right, so our time is now expired, and this will continue to annoy you until you hit the stop button right here. So you hit the stop button, the timer beeping alarm stops, and now you want to take your volumetric flask and flush the contents through this little glass container here. Okay, and just get it all that in there. While that's flushing through, I like to flush this out. After every test, you want to make sure you flush this out with some distilled water, like so. You do it once. I like to put a little bit more in there too. Flush it out, and it looks like our contents have made it through. All right, now we're going to hit the read button here, and we want this to be either a 0 or close to 0. An 8. Well, close enough. It'll work. All right, so we got an 8. That's gonna go right here under the final effluent ultra low results. Right here it says the sample. We're gonna put our 8. That's fine. I wish it was just closer to 0, but we'll have to make some process controls adjustment, see if we can improve that a little better. So anyhow, so we just got done with the first test. Now what you want to do is put some distilled water right here to this glass tube, fill it up to the top, and then just let that flush all the way through, and then we will begin our next test, the second test. Cut. Now that we're completed the first test, you no longer need that sample. You no longer need your final effluent sample from the wash or wherever your source is. So what you do is you just dump that out and poured some of the water in there, rinse it out, and then want to make sure you rinse the cap out. And then you just put that away, and we're gonna go right into our second test. Okay, so we're gonna need this beaker, and like I said, that should already be flushed out with distilled water, and we're gonna fill this up to 100 milliliters. So probably about right there, I think. It's a little low. Get it as close as you can. Probably, yep, about right there, bottom of that meniscus. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this blank, all right? So this blank is the catalog 2493023. All right, what this is the dechlorine agent. This is known as the Blanken reagent. So what you do is you want to make sure, see, I'm getting my pipette tips a little confused. So I'm gonna have to grab some more. So what you do is you grab a pipette tip, not one that you've been using for the buffer or the indicator. It has to be a third one, a separate one. Same thing, push it all the way against there. Make sure it's on the 1 setting. And the same thing, push and hold that all the way. Put it into the reagent bottle, slowly release it. It'll fill up to the way. And then you depress that once, all the way down to the bottom. You give it a swirl. And now we go back to the timer, which was options. It says start timer, so we hit select. This time we want to go down to the timer manual, and we hit select, and we need to set this for 5 minutes, and then this will count down to 5 minutes, and we have to wait 5 minutes before we can proceed with the next test. So we will return to you within 5 minutes. All right. So here we are once again. Our timer has expired, making a nice, pleasant, wonderful, comforting sound. Hit the stop button, and now I'll move into the next step of this test. So what we do is kind of just like how we did in the first test. We're going to grab a buffer and we're going to break this. Throw the glass in here. Make sure that you're, oh, sorry, this was from the blank. So you want to remove this. We'll put that here. Here's a brand. Wait, I'm sorry here. Let me grab a new one just to make sure. Because I can't remember if those old ones have been used. They look like they have liquid in them somewhere. So push that all the way against pipette tip. Decompress this all the way. Put it into here. Release your thumb slowly. Let it till it fills up. Take it out. Dump it in the sink. Put that in the little glass box. Press it into here. Take that off. I put it back into here. And then I'm going to grab one more for the indicator. All right, push it hard against here. Break that. Decompress this. Release the compression. Dump it out, put it in there. Put it in here, and after you pour it in here, same thing like the first test. Give it a little swirl. We'll take this pipette tip off. We'll put it in here in the indicator box. And then now we're gonna take that sample that's been dechlorinating the last 5 minutes. And just like in the first test, we're gonna fill it up to that 50 milliliter line. Once it kind of gets to that skinny neck, you have to really slow down the flow because it starts taking off really fast. Right about there. That's a little bit, tiny bit above it though. So maybe it's like 50.5, but that will work for this. So you fill that up. And since like I said, we don't have a cap, just have this little piece of foam here. You're gonna invert it twice. Like so. And then after you invert it, you'll start your 3-minute timer now, just like in the first test. So you go options, start timer. So you hit select, timer 3 minutes, hit select. It's gonna start your 3 minutes. While that 3 minutes is ongoing, we're gonna take the remainder of our contents in this beaker and we're gonna flush it all the way through in this little glass container. You can't just pour it all in one dose. You have to let it go down a little bit and pour the rest of it in here, because unfortunately this wasn't really good design, because this little glass container isn't exactly 50 milliliters. It would be nice if it was, so you can just pour it all in there in one, one pour. But so same thing, you want to make sure you wait until this flushes all the way through. You see the bubbles coming down the hose, and then basically just wait until they stop, and they appear to have stopped. Now you want to zero this. So there's a zero right here, so you hit this little up arrow triangle button, push that. It's gonna zero the machine. There. Okay, so that sample that you just poured to, it's gonna say, hey, the clarity of that liquid, we're gonna call that 0. And then after this timer expires, we're gonna pour the remaining contents in this volumetric flask in, and we're gonna hit read, and it's basically gonna compare like the two samples. So we'll come back to you in another minute and 17 seconds. All right, our time has expired once again. We will hit the stop button to shut that timer off. Now we're going to pour the remaining contents in our flask through here. All right, so while that's flushing through, I'll take some of that RO water or distilled water, and I'll rinse this out a few times. And want to make sure we wait until it flows all the way through. Still going, still going, still going. And like I said, it's better to cut these lines a little shorter so it'll flow faster and quicker. All right, so they've stopped. Now we're going to go over here, just like in the first test. You see it says read. Push this button, and this has to be less than 5. Two. Perfect. So we just got a 2 right here. So it's basically 2 micrograms per liter. So you're going to come over here into your paperwork and you write a 2 right here in this line. It says the reagent blank must be less than 5 micrograms per liter. So what you do is you take the sample minus the blank right here. So 8 minus 2 is 6. And so your result is 6 micrograms per liter. And the MDL right here, it's a 25. You can find that right here on the Hawk DR 1900 machine. So this is for Phantom Ranch. This is the MDL. It says 25 micrograms per liter. And like I said, you just put it right there. And we'll now go into our third test here shortly. We're going to go into our third and final test here. This one's usually the most difficult one to pass. So we want to try to get a number that's between 90 and 110 micrograms per liter. So we just got done with our second test, and like I said, after every test that you get done with, you want to make sure you flush this glass container here with some distilled water. So just pour it in there, fill it up, let it flush all the way through. And so for this last and final test, we are going to be using this this Class A right here, 1,000 milliliter flask. And I'm going to have to go get the standards for here, so I'll be right back. Here are the standards. It'll say right here, total chlorine residual, 100 micrograms per liter. Here's our lot number, 23417. Catalog is QCI-118. And so basically, like I said, in order for this to pass this third test, you have to be within plus or minus 10% of 100. 10% of 100 is 10. So we want to get our last number of somewhere between 90 and 110 micrograms per liter. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to, and like I said, you should have already flushed this out with some distilled water here. So this should be a nice clean glass bottle. So what I like to do here is, let's see, I like to fill it up a little bit, maybe around 300 milliliters, give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect, so it's somewhere around right there. And then what I do is I take one of these standards out here, and you're going to see has some liquid in here. This actually has a little bit of chlorine in it, and what you're going to do is you're actually going to chlorinate your water in here. And so sometimes you get a little bit of some bubbles toward the top here, and you just have to try to push them down as best you can. So what I do basically is I just I snip off the top, like right here, and so it creates a little hole right there, and it won't drop out until you actually cut it, and so it creates a vacuum so it can push all the liquid through. So all you do is just barely snip it a little bit, and you'll see that liquid go all the way through. So you try to get out as much of that liquid as you can, like so. So what I do is I cap it, and then I invert this. You can invert this 3 to 6 times, I believe is what the instructions say. So there's 3 times right there. And what we'll do is we're going to fill the rest of this up to this line right here as close as we can get it. And that'll be our 1,000 milliliter mark. And like I said, once the water fills up to that neck, you want to control your speed a little bit more. Oop. Oh shoot, it's a little bit, oh no, that's good, okay. Sometimes it's kind of hard to perfect. So it's a little tiny bit above the line, so just right a tiny bit over bid 1,000, be okay. So you cap it, and then I'll invert it just a couple more times. Make sure this chlorine in this product is good and mixed up. All right, so we got that. This was from the old test, and you know, you can rinse this out from the second test if you want, but it actually was already dechlorinated that you just put in here, so you know, it's kind of double redundancy, so you really don't actually have to rinse it out with RO water, so just gonna put it away and be done with that. Okay, now just like you did in the first two tests, I'm gonna put a buffer and an indicator in here. So, and like I said, it's still 1.0, just like it was in the first test. So, push that pretty tight against there. Break that bottle, decompress this, release it, dump it out, put it in there, decompress that all the way one time, grab your indicator pipette tip, break the bottle, don't cut yourself, decompress this all the way. Press that in there. Okay, and then you give this a little swirl. This next part is really kind of difficult to do just because of how this glass is designed. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna fill this flask, this tiny flask, up to 50 milliliters as best we can. And don't worry about spilling it out because you're not actually going to use all the contents in this 1,000 milliliter flask. So it's turning pink. That's actually what we want for this last test. Okay. There we go. So, yep, right around there, right around the 50 milliliters, so that's good. Put a little film over there, and then just make sure it's good and capped. Invert it twice, just like you did in the first test. Okay, after you do that, this part is actually a little different from the first two tests. This little procedure right here, slightly different. So after you do, we could leave that on there. So after you do that, you're gonna take the contents that's in here, the big flask, and you're gonna pour 50 milliliters into this glass container here. So you fill it up all the way, let it drop down, put a little more into there. That's about 50 right there. And what you do is, once this is flushed all the way through, we're gonna start our timer. So we'll wait until it flushes all the way through. All right, there's our air bubbles. And they appear to stop. Now, same thing, you go to options, it says start timer, hit the select button here, timer 3 minutes, hit select. Your 3-minute timer is gone. And so basically, we're gonna wait until the timer expires, and then we're gonna press 0 and then proceed with the rest of the test. So we'll see you in a bit. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, our time has expired. Hit the stop button right here. And now, after this timer is expired, you want to hit 0. So hit the up triangle right here. It's zeroing, it's like it says. All right, 0 micrograms per liter, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour the remaining of the contents in here, like so. It's looking pretty good. I'm hoping this will pass. It's looking like, we'll try to take a guess. I think it'll be a 95. Pretty sure it's going to pass. A lot of the time it's usually like below 90, then you have to run the test again, and that is very time consuming. So, okay. So it's flushed all the way through. Wait until it's stopped flowing. Okay, it stopped flowing. Now we're gonna go back here. We're gonna hit this button right here. Read. Come on, 90 to 110 is what we want. 95, 95. 107. Woo, perfect. We did it, we pass. Thank goodness. All right. So now what you do, like right here where it says the standard, you got the true value, right? The true value is gonna be right here. If you go back to the little standards packets, it's gonna be this 100 right here. That goes right here. And like it says underneath there, it says must be plus or minus within 10%, which is 90 to 110. We got 107, so we write 107 right here. And so basically that's how you perform the ultra low chlorine test. When you get done, you know, make sure you rinse that out with some distilled water, put it away, and flush that out as well too. Keep your lines clean, power it off and close the lid, all that, and keep your laboratory organized. And I'll show you how to fill out the rest of this paperwork in just a minute. For incubator right here, we have this set to right up here, 20 degrees Celsius, 19.9, so it's just about there. The buffer and the indicators right here, as it'll say on here, is stored, has to be stored between 10 and 30 degrees Celsius. Like I said, we have it at 20, so that's good. So right out here, this has your buffer, your indicator, and your blanks. That's little blank bottle that's in here. So whenever you're using this, like if you grab a fresh bag that's out here, on the other side here, it's gonna say the R right on here. This is indicating when it was received. So this was received July 17th, 2023. And whenever you open it, you have to label it every time when it was opened. So it looks like this is my handwriting. So I opened this August 22nd, 2023. And then when it's empty, you don't throw it away. You want to hang on to it and send it back to the laboratory technician. So we're done with this. We just completed the test. So we'll put this back in here. Okay. And now with this, right here with our standards have to be like right up here. It says 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. This refrigerator is usually around 4, somewhere around in there. So it looks like right here, 1, 2, 3, looks like it's around 3.5 degrees Celsius. So we're good to go right there. And the same thing with those, but like in the buffer and the indicators there, you'll have right here in black, it says R. So it was received April 28, 2023. And what you want to do is you want to write when it was opened. Looks like this got kind of smeared off. I believe I opened this up in August. So I'm going to have to touch that up, find a pen, and rewrite over this. I'm going to write that I opened it 8/3/2023. And then after you write that up, put it in here and just shut the door and hope that the fridge still works. All right, so now we're going to fill out the rest of this paperwork. So basically, here's the paperwork here. The Grand Canyon National Park Utilities section, ultra low chlorine, pH analysis, dissolved oxygen, and temperature. So we're gonna write down the sample date. Today is August 30th, 2023. So 8/30/2023. The sample type, that's a grab. That's called a grab sample. The grab sample is from where we collected the final effluent down at the wash. Lab date, that's today, 8/30/2023. The lab time, that begins when, technically it begins when we started cleaning out our dishes. So we started this at around 2 o'clock. So we'll put 1400. The sample location, we performed this test today at the South Rim Wastewater Treatment Plant, SRWWTP. I sampled it, I received it, and I was the analysis. So I will put my name right here on all 3 lines. All right, what else? We have the analysis date. That was also performed here today. Okay, the spectrometer. Test on a Hawk right here, and it's a Hawk DR 1900. And that will go right here. Hawk DR 1900. Okay, whoops. I put an extra 0 there. If you make that mistake, just cross the 0 off and put your initials. So the DL meter, it's a YSI meter. That's the company that makes it, YSI, and it's a YSI Pro Solo. So we'll write that right here, YSI Pro Solo. The calibration date, so that's another thing. In order to perform this ultra low test correctly, you have to make sure that your DO meter has been calibrated, and you calibrate that once a month. It's usually at the beginning of the day of each month. So for here at the South Rim, we have a logbook of when we calibrate our equipment, and it looks to me that, yep, we did. Right here, DO meter, YSI Pro Solo. It looks to me that me and another operator performed it August 1st, 2023 at 7:25 in the morning. And so what we do is we'll write that right here, 8/1/2023. The pH meter, also in this same book, we also have when we calibrate. The pH meter has to be calibrated every day. And like I said, before you begin the test, you have to make sure that it's been calibrated. Otherwise, the test is invalid. And it looks to me it was performed here today on Wednesday, August 30th, 2023 at 7 o'clock this morning. So, so we put 8/30/2023. So what is the make and the model of the pH meter? Here it is a Hawk, and it's an HQ 440D multi. So we'll write that right here. And we're gonna get the values right here. So the buffer values from the 4, 7, the 10, the slope, and the secondary buffer value. We're gonna get the values and the temperature. So we'll go back to the logbook right here. So let's see here. So he got a 4.00. That goes right here. For his temperature, he got a 20.5. He had a 702. Got a 20.4 for the temperature, 1003, and a 20.3. His slope was 5795. That's within range. It has to be between 55 and 61. And our secondary source, 706 and 20.2. All right, so now for the pH buffer, the manufacturer was Hawk, and our lot number, which is written here, says it's A2298A. So you copy that onto here. The rest of the ones are all made by Hawk. So that's A2321. The pH10 is an A2327, and the secondary 7 is, oh, looks like it wasn't written down. We'll be right back to get the bottle. Yeah. So that secondary 7 was performed by taking a sample out of this bottle here. So here's our lot number, the BW1. That goes right here. And on the ultra low sheet, it's gonna go right here, BW1. And let's see, what else are we missing? Oh, we need the thermometer ID and the correction factor. All right, so this was the thermometer that we had back in our sample cup, as you saw earlier in the video. So the thermometer ID on here, you're gonna see two IDs. You've got like a number right here that says NIST number 1284. That's not it. You actually need the thermometer ID on the thermometer itself. So you just spin it, and you're gonna see like this faint number right up here. It's right here. It says 341637 for this one. So it goes right here for the thermometer ID, 341637. The correction factor now is going to be on the back of this thermometer. It says 0.0 core effect. So you put that right here, 0.0. And then now we just have to fill out the buffer, indicator, blank, and the standard information. So Hawk makes the buffer, the indicator, and the blank. And the standard is, the manufacturer is by NSI Labs, as it says right here. So we'll obtain the buffer lot number here. So let's see here. We got clear, those are the indicators. Brown, those are the buffers. So the lot number right here is right here. It says A3152. And that goes right here. A3152. The indicators right here. It says lot A3144. A3144. The blank is, blank is right in here, and it'll say right here, blank and reagent for the ultra low. The lot number is right on the side of the bottle right here. It says lot A3145. A3145. Then finally, we need the lot number for the standards. The lot number for the standards is going to be right here, and that's 23417. 23417. And just take a look at your sheet one last time, and that's how you fill out the paperwork for the ultra low chlorine test.